Mindfulness. Welcome. This is Josh, integrating presence and inner skill. Today I have Wendy Nash back again. Wendy, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm here on Gubby Gubby country in Queensland in Caboolture. And how's it going? Pretty good, actually. I'm feeling inspired. So, not only
Well,
in my Dharma practice, that's always inspiring, but also just generally in life. So, but we'll talk about that.
well, that's cool. Yeah, I'm interested in hearing about that too. Inspiration is always a great thing, especially when I'm lacking it. Then it's even more important. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily lacking it, but I don't think I have a huge amount of it either. But so today's topic, I've titled. Oh, let's see here. I'm getting my screen up. I just accidentally closed out one thing, but it's called Worship, Respect, Inspiration. And this is our 40th meditation Q&A that Wendy and I have done. So yeah, that's a little bit of a milestone. So that's cool. So here's the description. I put things, actually, I don't need to read the first sentence. So in this 40th installment of the ongoing live series with Wendy Nash, inquiring into meditation practice on and off the cushion, we plan to delve into the area of worship, respect, and inspiration. How can some activities like pujas, which we'll go into what that means if you're not familiar with the term, how can some activities like pujas easily get attributed to worship when they are not actually that? How can we not fall into blind worship? Where and how does inspiration and that which deserves respect play into this? And where does this all fit into meditation practice? So this came from a billboard that I saw from a Dhamma friend, and I want to see if I can actually share it on screen. But we'll see. Maybe I can. I'm not prepared, but maybe I can get that while we're talking here, if it's not too distracting. So. So let me just describe that billboard before I throw it up. It shows the Buddha. This is a billboard in Thailand. It says the Buddha is not for decoration. Respect is common sense. So it shows a big red X over a Buddha head and saying no tattoos, meaning no Buddha tattoos. And basically, now I'm missing the other image. There's an image basically saying they're not for here it's wrong to use symbols of Buddha in the bar for decoration or tattoos. This means no respect. And I also want to talk about this Buddha head too that's in a retreat center that I was at. That's interesting, and how this there's certain removals now of Buddha heads and whatever. So we can talk about that. But so I just want to throw it over to Wendy here to see what Wendy makes of all this and where we should start with this too.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. So, a long while ago, I was in a cafe and they had a Buddha sitting on the counter and they had business cards on it. And it was like a business card holder.
Yeah.
And so I said to one of the people behind the counter, I said, would you have Mary or Jesus? It turned out she was French. So she was deeply Catholic. And she said, oh, no, this is completely offensive. And I thought this was a really good way of describing it. Well, would you have, Mary or Jesus doing that, and how would that be? So I think we have, as a sort of a less religious society, not understood that for some people, Jesus, Mary, Buddha, the Prophet Muhammad, whoever it is, are key figures, and you can't what is the word? Yeah.
Desecrate. Desecrate.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, this is a really, really. So, what I wanted to do actually, because of the potentially inflammatory nature of if I get too far to one side or the other, I mean, I'm sure I'm going to maybe upset some Buddhists by not being reverent and respectful enough with some of the things I might bring up. These aren't my personal beliefs or opinions. I just want to cover kind of the whole spectrum of this, if we can, as much as we can within a wise reason, and as respectful as we can as kind of an outside like archaeologist looking at things or something like this. And then I could potentially do that, but also to the other end where that that maybe I'm too religious around this. You know what I mean? That's the other extreme, kind of too fundamental and religious around this, and not opening up. You know, maybe too orthodox. So, just due to that, and then all the things in the world going on right now. Apparently, my partner read some things about more war mongering and saber rattling and war, beating the war drums. And so, and some of this, I would imagine, has religious undertones, overtones, involvements, and how this could potentially, even though we're putting it in context of Buddhist, how it could potentially be extrapolated out to other religions who actually do worship. So it can be a potentially sensitive issue for people on both sides, whether people think that religion is horrible and it's a cause of a lot of problems, or other people who say it's because we don't have religions that there's a, you know what I mean? So it's just on all sides. You know, they say not to talk about religion and politics in polite company, but this topic we're talking about does play into our meditation practice. So if we just what I call the 3 breath highway. So I like to just close our eyes and take just, well, a couple deep breaths before we even do the deep breath or the 3 breath highway, and come into the body and just follow 3 full entire breaths from every moment of the inhale to any pause, and then every moment of the exhale. So I'll give us silence here. It doesn't have to be every single moment if you can't do it. And it doesn't have to be exactly 3 breaths, just staying with every moment you can. Inhaling, pausing, exhaling, pausing. And however it is, it's okay. And I've just noticed that my breath is really kind of shallow and fast now because of I've had a cup of coffee this morning, which I normally don't before these things. I like to do tea, and then with that, I'd actually like to have Wendy do a brief reflection on loving kindness, because that's her main practice and how she does it.
Sure, but I do want to say a
Sure.
highway is a like that is an inflammatory word for me, because that's about
Uh,
that's all the car dependence. We do not worship the car. Just saying.
that's
So
right.
for
It's
me,
neat if
you
you're
were
near.
just like,
If you're near a highway, you definitely need this, and we can change it to the bike path, right? We can say maybe a bike path, or
you could just
yes,
say a path.
there we go. Yes, so how we're getting on someplace where we can both be challenged extremely, but also it can be of benefit to us that we have a path, right?
All right, so I'll do my version, which is very hands-on, very straightforward. You don't need to close your eyes, but if you feel like it, by all means. And basically, what what I like to do for loving kindness meditation is to notice the small gestures that help you feel at ease. So, for instance, Josh opened today thinking, oh, it'd be really good to make sure that people who might feel unsettled by the topic would be would like to feel at ease. And so he created a meditation, and then he thought, well, I too would like to do that. And he knows that loving kindness meditation is an important aspect for me. And then when I raised the name of it, that he took that with some humility and response, which shows just within these few minutes how important it's been to just appreciate these small, tiny gestures that Josh has helped us feel at ease. And that applies to anyone, anywhere. So, for instance, wherever you are here, whatever you were doing this time yesterday, just think back to what was somebody doing to help you feel at ease. You know, whatever time of the day it was. So for me, it's coming up to dinner time. Did somebody cook? Did somebody clean for you? Did somebody text you something, like somebody messaged me today and said you might be interested in this, and it was actually 2 people did that today, and it was such a lovely gesture. And so just looking for these small things. Did somebody turn up to a meeting prepared? Josh came prepared today. Did somebody pay an invoice on time, a supplier? So these are small things that perhaps we can take for granted, but just noticing any small acts in the last 24 hours that just made your life easier, for the fact that if it hadn't been there, you would have really felt irritated. So these are small acts to help you feel at ease. So that's the journey. I don't know if that was okay, but
This
there you
is
go.
so beautiful, and just let me reinforce this because it also helps mindfulness, and it counters our negativity bias, because I know that a lot of times I'm looking and the problems stand out, and I'm not always like this. Like, this is an artificial container, right? And Wendy helps provide that space and helps draw this out, which I would say this is true and accurate. It's just not. I'm not just not like this all the time, right? So this is a special container where this certain qualities can be amplified, just like Wendy's practice too, and it's authentic. It's not lying or pretending some kind of you know some kind of affirmation that that I hope to get to someday. It's real, true, it's happened. It's inclining the mind towards something helpful. It's taking time, and then we have to review, right? We have to be mindful and use memory and recall things. So it's helping us, and then it's helping it condition to be on the lookout for this, to condition the mind to see this, and then to, not as a theoretical thing, but like an energetic feedback, and can feel how beneficial this feels. And it's also, I just go on and on, like it's conducive for relationships and interactions as well, because you're automatically showing value towards someone else and not taking that for granted, and how we're all interdependent on each other. So yeah, I can't say enough good things about this version of loving kindness that Wendy puts forth. It's so beneficial.
And speaking of relationships, my partner, we have a relationship like any other relationship. And every now and again, I get irritated with him, because that's what I get irritated with myself. Why wouldn't I get irritated with somebody else? So of course I'm going to do that. And it just means that time when I want to kind of get irritated, which is often, instead of being irritable, I just go, oh, thanks for doing this, thanks for doing that. And we both do it. And it just really creates such a nice space. So it's interesting how you talked about the negativity bias. I don't think I've got that anymore, because I think I've been training in this for 5 years now, maybe a bit longer. I'm just always looking for the good stuff and always noticing everything positive. And yeah, so things don't work my way, but actually I'm so trained to look for the good stuff. I kind of go, and then I go, oh well, there you go.
And it's also helpful to want to have that momentum. I found when I did this practice more, then when we really faced with something really negative in life, it helps counterbalance that. Because I'm reflecting on how I've been more negative Nancy, or, been in that kind of tailspin of negativity, then the positivity helps balance that out as well, and we're trying to incline the heart and mind to things that are beneficial for us and for others, especially in the long term. Now, I'm not saying that. So I guess the counterbalance is not to. And Wendy's really good about calling out BS. That's what another thing I really appreciate her, and she does it in a kind, helpful way too. So this is this it helps condition the heart to deal with things that are negative and not beneficial in life, and how then to go about the best way to deal with those, to view with those situations and instances, and then how to respond to them. Because if I don't have enough resources to deal with that, then the tendency for me is just to match the same type of energy and just continue to go down the toilet or down the spiral, right? If I don't have like a reference point and a strength of the opposite type of energy, energy and view to bring to a situation. So yeah.
Well, we talked about inspiration, so that's inspiring. And I recently feel inspired because, well, maybe I'll talk about that a little bit later on.
Sure.
But I find that a really inspiring practice because then it makes me recognize the goodness in others all the time. So I really like it. But there's no Pollyannering. So look, I've got a not-for-profit. I have to deal with state departments. I have to deal with software producers. I have to deal with all that, and I don't want to deal with it, and I get really irritated by the letters and the interactions and all that sort of stuff. But nonetheless, I think it's more that we just aren't looking for the other stuff to counter it. So that's that. So I don't know, I found that a very inspiring practice, and I think that's why my partner, speaking before, I think that's why we managed to have such a high level of respect for each other, because he then notices every time I notice what he's doing. So it doesn't give the opportunity for resentment to arise, because he knows that I'm always noticing everything he does. So it's a sort of a respecting little, I don't know, ping pong or something we've got going.
It is, yeah. It's compounding as well, right? And especially for guys, I think it's a big deal for guys to be respected or disrespected. You know what I mean? So if traditionally speaking, the masculine tendency, I think this day and age, it's really kind of a bigger deal for guys. I think is this respect or lack of respect, and yeah, we can go into that too, and then also value. We show that we value and things are validated when we get external reinforcement and external cues and indications that something is valuable, something is valued. Yeah. So and that's kind of a feminine tendency maybe traditionally. And so it reinforces and helps both of these things. Yes. So yeah.
So I
Mhm.
don't go with the whole masculine
Sure,
feminine
sure.
thing,
We
because
can just,
I'm just not a feminine person at
yeah,
all.
yeah,
I just
yeah,
get cranky and I have to work with that. So I don't go with that sort of stuff. I'm much more interested
sure.
in introverts and extroverts, I find. And for
Very good.
me, it's, yeah, but I think everybody wants to be respected. No one
Absolutely.
wants to be taken for granted. And
Exactly.
I think that often everybody takes everybody a little bit for granted, and that practice of just saying thank you every time you do something, every time the other person does something for you, it just is fantastic. And the other thing to do is to say sorry, and that's respectful as well. And it just seems like it's nothing. Why should I say sorry? And it's like, does it really matter? Just say sorry. Like, no one likes to upset anybody. I'm sorry I upset you.
I found in relationships too, it saves a lot of time, hassle, and trouble, and squabbling. It's just come out as soon as I can and admit my shortcomings, and yeah, it takes a lot of strength and courage to do that for some people too. And I like just that, like you say, making it habitual in a way. And it doesn't mean that I'm less than or anything like that. It's for, I feel like, the greater balance and harmony of the relationship, which then can have a snowball effect and help those around us and those we interact with too. So yeah, it really is, and I think I'm learning that the hard way more. It's like I should get that quicker, I feel, but better late than never. And
Did you
yeah.
use the word highway again?
No, I don't think I did actually.
Okay,
What did you
I,
hear?
I
Okay.
misheard. I was slightly distracted by. We've got a couple of comments here. One is by
Okay.
flight, which is one of those random kind of, "Are you
Mhm.
guys on a date?" Whatever. Not interested. So
Oh
don't post stuff
gosh,
that's not about
that's funny.
meditation. And then
Yeah.
somebody's written, Dave Thomas 30 got Josh. What are you on? And I think that's also an irrelevant
Ah,
thing. So I think we'll skip that one. So if you're
yeah.
hoping for an answer for that, delete.
The trolls are out. We're not feeding the trolls, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll just transform that into some playful, humorous guy banter. Let's just say that, and just haha, that's funny, dude. Something like that. But okay, but maybe that's also an indication
So
to. I'm good. Go ahead, Wendy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Mm.
I looked up the etymology of the word worship. So respect
Okay.
and inspiration is one, they're sort of ones that we talk about pretty commonly here.
Hmm.
And worship comes from the Old English word. I'm just looking up in one of the AI things,
Okay.
and it says worship comes from the Old English word worthship, pronounced worthship, but it's got funny letters in there. And it said, which meant the condition of being worthy or honor, dignity, glory. So worth means worthy or valuable, and ship, skip, Skype, is state, condition, ship, as in friendship or leadership. By the 13th century, worship began to take on religious connotations. So it didn't actually start there. It just meant that it's worthyful. It's a state of
Interesting.
worth. So
Wow.
that is that. So that's, and I think that makes it much more like in that way. Okay, so by the 13th century, so 1200 something or other, worship began to take on a religious connotation,
Connotation. Yeah.
and connotation. Our friend Em Reed is here. Hello,
Hey,
so lovely
Reed.
to
What's
see
up?
you again.
Likewise.
Really nice to have you back. Uh, Worship began to take on a religious connotation, referring to the act of showing reverence, devotion, or honor to a deity or sacred object, hence its relevance to us today. It has also retained its secular meaning, referring to honor or respect shown to someone of high status. For example, we worship, royalty or whatever. Modern usage today, worship primarily refers to religious devotional rituals, attending a worship service. It can also describe deep admiration or love for someone or something, e.g., she worships her favorite musician. So,
So this is completely different than what I take worship to mean now.
okay.
Respect from the modern day, at least connotation that I have of worship, is that worship is can be potentially distorted, that there's no kind of thought process involved or wisdom involved, that it's maybe like an automaton on automatic, and that I'm giving my energy away mindlessly. So I don't know if that's an accurate reflection, but that's kind of when I think of worship, that's what I kind of think of that, right? Now, that's different from, like you saying, the etymology. So, and I would say I'm not too far off maybe in what people think about worship or the way it's sometimes used these days. Now, honor and respect might be similar to that, but it's not. What I just laid out there, but it's different. If I respect something, it doesn't. There's a kind of a okay. I Some people, I guess, do it on automatic pilot without thinking, or they do it in fear, out of fear, or without vetting if it's worthy of honor and respect or not. They just do it for other reasons. But yeah, so the reason this also came up is because I just got back from a meditation retreat, like at a monastery, right? A winter retreat where we were doing puja pretty much many days. And so let's just, for people that don't know puja, how maybe I would describe it as just more literally in this context. You go early, and in the morning you're doing silent meditation, and then after that period of silent meditation, which is maybe around 40 minutes to an hour, then we're doing some chanting out of a chanting book, and it's about basically Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha and various themes. For the most part, let's just say to simplify it, and yeah, and then that's pretty much what it constitutes. And then in the evening, it's the opposite or reverse, where you're doing some chanting first, and then doing the silent sitting. That's the kind of. Then there's a Dhamma hall, right? There's a huge Buddha statue, a Buddha Rupa at the front. Candles and incense are lit. There's monastics in robes, and so we can talk about all these externalizations. And there's also bowing involved. So that's, I think, very foreign, at least for me in the West, to do these type of things, right? So if from an outsider with no context, just walking in and observing this from the outside, it looks like a worship, I was, raised in Lutheran, which is a Protestant Christianity, and so they're basically, the things they say, the hymns they sing, the sentiments that are expressed, even though it's kind of dialed back and more, I would say, repressive. That is, yeah, that's known as worship. That's my reference point for what worship is, and they're explicitly acknowledging that it's worship in Christianity. This, some people would say this is worship, and some Buddhists say this is worship. But some, like me, I wouldn't consider it that. And we have to go into details of why I wouldn't consider it a worship, that I would consider it more inspirational, there's the word, right? And respectful and conducive to meditation practice and faith and wisdom. So there's kind of maybe some splitting hairs here and some fine lines that we can, I don't know how granular we want to go into details on this, but I have put the image up now for this as well. And maybe we can talk about, Wendy already mentioned one story around this. There's so much to say for me around this, but I don't want to talk the entire time. I want to throw it back here to Wendy and see where we should go with all this. Yeah.
So it's interesting because I have a completely different take on the word worship. I was more like that with devotion. I'm like, I'm not devoted. I'm not going to be devoted. So I had a funny reaction, and I think it's just my own childhood something or other. I don't really have that, but it's interesting. I'm supporting a friend at the moment who's got some mental health issues and some marital issues and stuff like that. He follows a different religion, and I always encourage him to really think about and he's very attentive to the book of that religion, and so I encourage him always to kind of, well, what is the essence of that? So rather than going through the ritual of it, what is the essence? And it turned out that he had been doing things sort of because he felt he should. So through the ritual, what you would call the worship. And then I was going, but you don't really practice it. And I think it's because it's got this punitive, you should be, doing this as part of your rituals, your worship, you're showing your devotion. And it's been a very interesting experience for me to sort of see somebody who is very, very faith-oriented, actually, to go, actually, I don't really practice because I do go through the motions of it. Whereas I mean, he was born into that religion, whereas I was born into Christianity, I suppose, but not really. And then I have found my own path into Buddhism. And so I think for me, I mean, maybe it's just me in the way that I see it, but I see it's about practice. There's no point for me participating in a religion unless I want to take it with some, unless I want to become a better person. I don't want to become one of these earnest, boring, self-righteous people. I can be like that. I've been like that. I'm still like that. But I think it is important also to recognize that, I don't know, like everyone's trying their best, but I really dislike the whole ritual stepping it through the sun. What do they call it? The Sunday Christian or something, I don't like that at all, because to me, it just feels fake and insincere. And I don't care what I'm doing. I don't like when people are fake and insincere. And that doesn't apply just to religion. So, yeah.
I couldn't agree more, Wendy, and that's the whole point of doing this. Because when I found myself doing the puja, when I wasn't mindful, I found myself potentially falling into that trap and just going on pilot. Everyone around me is doing the same thing, right? And as soon as I lose heedfulness or mindfulness, then I'm just kind of going through the motions because everybody else is, and I'm doing this every day. And I don't want to do that, because to me, that's not helpful. And then that could fall into worship, and I don't want to do that, right? What Wendy says, how is this going to be a support for my practice? And how is this going to be a support for the betterment of my life and those around me, instead of just falling into another ritual that I do every day and do it mindlessly, and it's just on automatic, right? So that's the potential danger of this, but that's not the intent in the practice behind it, I feel, with these pujas. Now, I can obviously see how people can mistake it for that, and I know firsthand how easy it is to actually fall into that. But I can also see how this can be a very good mindfulness practice in the intentionality behind it. And also, when I go to bow, then when I'm mindful, I bring to the heart, okay, how authentic do I feel doing this? Sometimes I feel, oh, this doesn't feel natural, and then notice that as a response in the heart. Other times it does feel authentic and natural, and out of sincere honor and respect, and one that's going to benefit my practice and those around me by showing respect and honor to that which is deserves it basically and is worthy of it, and because of that is helpful. And yeah, this notion. It reminds me too. I want to say this of the kind of head of the Western Sangha in Thai forest tradition of Ajahn Chah, the monasteries, who's been practicing at in England. Yeah, Lumpur Suchito, I'm sorry, Ajahn Sumedho, uh, Lumpur Sumedho. He's famously known for, and I'm going to take this out of context a little and not paint the context, but it's just kind of almost a shocking statement. He's known for saying, if I'm getting this right, I don't want a bunch of bloody Buddhists, and I thought that was actually really inspiring in a way, and a little bit controversial. But to me, what that points to, and I could be getting it wrong in our context, is that he doesn't want a bunch of followers and worshipers and people that take this on as a religion. What he wants is sincere practitioners who are going to, have honest, true faith as best as they can, and confidence, and the qualities that are going to be helpful, and also their own sincere practice and ability to verify this faith and confidence with their own wisdom, or the cultivation of wisdom through their practice of meditation, is kind of what I get about this. Yeah. So I guess the other
Yeah.
thing to do is talk about the opposite of this is dishonor and disrespect. So I've got can you see the billboard up here in the screen? Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, we got it
I
up now.
can.
I can
Yeah.
take it down a little bit after we talk about it, but yeah.
Just trying to turn my light so don't look like I'm sitting in the dark. Um, yeah, it's an interesting thing that, what does it mean? Like, who am I to decide what is fake, what is sincere? But it's true. Interestingly, I read an article about tattoos, and there's a whole lot of people who've got this eye disease because of the ink in tattoos. So there's some, yeah. So I think they've got, like, it's a cancer. Let me see if I can pull it up. So that's an aside. So apart from anything, don't get a tattoo of a Buddha, but don't get a tattoo,
Tattoo in
actually.
general. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've had a
because
guest on recently that talked about the dangers of tattoos, or I haven't heard him say, but he recommends it. It's almost more rebellious not to have a tattoo these days anyway, because so many people have them.
So here it is. A small but increasing number of Australians are being diagnosed with a rare tattoo-related eye condition. It's known as tattoo-associated uveitis and can cause permanent vision loss. So it's
Wow.
to do with the chemicals they use
Ink.
in the ink. Yeah, and they're wandering around the body. So
Wow.
that's yeah. And it's interesting because a lot of people who are really into a lot of natural stuff get tattoos, and I'm like, they don't recognize that that's just another thing. So yeah, interesting. So M. Reed has said, authentic living, the only way to live. Well, it would be nice if we could all do it, but imagine if you were in a really horrible place, and actually being authentic created problems. Then what do you do?
Well, it's a really good point, and so I think we kind of each know that for ourselves. That statement I take to mean that people that are fake, right? That statement is meant for people that kind of know they're kind of lying to themselves, and that they're not being true to themselves or having honesty. So that's when I find it's really. But yeah, let's preface that with, just because I'm authentic doesn't mean that I don't have to be ethical now, because I'm just going to be however I want and be real, right? That's not what we mean by, at least that's what I take it to mean. So that statement, I think, is meant for people that are just okay, they see something and they want to be pretend to be a certain way because of certain reasons, right? Um, yeah, and so yeah, it's a good point, Winnie, because the other extreme of that, it can be overdone. Oh, hey, I'm real, I'm honest, I'm just gonna speak truths the
Yeah.
entire time and not have any regard for anything else. So, which is a good point here. So yeah, when we do this talk, it just reminding of wise speech here to keep myself in check. The first one, is it true? That's the most important, is it honest and true to the best of my knowledge right now? Then is it kind? Because it's then we can be inflammatory and cause, which the next one we want to make it for concord instead of division. So that's where the kindness helps out to bring concord instead of division. And then is it the right time to say this? And actually, if I push it a little bit too far, maybe it's not the right time to go into religious fervor for some, or can say because of the state of the world right now. So is it the right time to say it? And then is it is it helpful? And then is it necessary? Is this really necessary to say? And that's a tough one because with always chatting, you
So
know.
Emreed said move. I think it means authentic living, the only way to move. I think that's where,
Oh, I
but I
guess to
don't know what move means.
maybe to move about in the world yeah, we can ask for
Ah,
clarification. Yeah.
she said silence has power as speech does, knowing when to do one over the other. A great chat. Thanks. It's always lovely to have you here. Um, I think, there is something about a pregnant pause, or, silence is louder than words often.
Yes.
So there's that
It
too.
it's a response as well. Choosing to remain silent is a choice in response as well. You know what I mean? Not to speak out on something, not to say something, to hold back is a type of response as well. So let me. So we've talked a little bit. Sorry, I was to get this. We've talked a little bit about the disrespect. So for me, let me just say the Buddha head. It's if you don't know this, then it maybe fly in the radar. And so education, from what I understand, some of these Buddha heads have been ripped off of statues and things. Like as kind of a, well, if you're after someone's head, right? Some warring cultures used to take it as a trophy, so they would cut off people's heads, put it on a stake, put it for display and say, okay, this is what happens to people to do this. This is our prowess as warriors and things like that. So I'm taking, some people interpret it as that, right? They desecrate the Buddha Rupa, which in itself, is just a form. So this is a complex issue. From what I understand, actually, the Buddha, if we're going to be strict about this, he didn't want a lot of religious imagery around to begin with. I think there was only approval of like footprints, a wheel, an empty throne. Trying to think of a few other ones, but over time, those became like because of our, I would say, I can't speak for everybody, because of our lack of decline in understanding and wisdom, that those then became those images that were approved. If I'm getting that right, someone chime in if I'm getting that wrong, then meant nothing, and so they were kind of empty and hollow. So then we needed a more a Buddha Rupa, like is a Buddha form, to then have a reminder of like what this notion of the Buddha is or was and what it represents. So then we have that, and to me, it depends how we use that. Yeah, it's a reminder. And Wendy wants to jump in here. Sure, go ahead.
I
Yeah.
do, I do.
Yeah.
The Gandhara Buddha, which is the one that we see everywhere, which is
Mhm.
the robes and everything like that. So Alexander the Great, who was great, I think, according to his own legend, rather than anything that anybody else did, because he was pretty ruthless and nasty. He died at 33, interestingly, didn't live a long life. But he brought it over from Macedonia. So it's the Roman kind of robes and Greek robes that we're seeing. That's it is. He's buff Buddha. He's not emaciated, is he? He's strong and he's tough and all the rest. So I'll look up the history of that.
Sure.
But
And
that's my understanding
that's
is he
one
wants,
version. That's right.
yeah,
That's one version
okay.
of it. We do have like an emaciated Buddha that was before he was Buddha, as he was an ascetic, but that's not a common one. We do have thinner Buddhas. There's Buddha Rupas from Burma that aren't as, big and buff and Romanesque, let's just say. So there's various different types of Buddha images. Where I was going with this though is, okay, it's like, what is the intention in the heart? And what is this respect now? And I also go into the Zen thing that goes to the other extreme of how, I wouldn't say extreme, but points out that some people are taking this over, being over reverent towards it and almost religious towards it, and then maybe mistaking the image for the actual thing and being overly protective of it. So let me just read this little Zen story here that talks to the opposite of this. So on a cold winter night, I don't know how to say this, Ikkuyu, Kaiyu was staying at a temple. Freezing, he took a wooden Buddha statue and burned it in the fire to keep warm. The caretaker was horrified. How dare you burn the Buddha? Ikkyu calmly poked through the ashes with a stick. The caretaker asked, "What are you doing?" He replied, "I'm looking for the sacred relics." Surya. So what this is really, this is what happens when you kind of cremate a body, and there's things left in the body that science can't explain, and some of them look like gems, some little things remaining that should have burned up for regular people, but there's now things in the ashes. So back to the story. The caretaker said, "But it's only wood. There are no relics in it." And then you answered, "If there are no relics, then it's just wood. Why not burn it?" Later, when the caretaker saw Ikkyu bowing to a stone by the road, he asked, "Why bow to that?" Ikkyu replied, "If you can burn a Buddha, you can bow to a stone."
There we are. So I've looked up through my AI thing. The evolution of how the Buddha was depicted in art is a fascinating journey. So it's got pretty bad text, but anyway, reflecting changes in religious thought, cultural exchange, and artistic traditions. Here's a concise history. So the aniconic symbols, the 5th to the 1st century BCE, in the earliest period, the Buddha was not depicted in human form. Instead, artists used symbols to represent his presence and teachings. The Dharma wheel, footprints, empty throne or Bodhi tree, lotus flower, or a stupa. So early Buddhists may have avoided human depictions due to the influence of aniconism, avoiding idolatry, because the Buddha's physical form was considered too transcendent to represent. Anthropomorphic depictions, 1st century CE onward. The shift to human depictions of the Buddha began around 1st century CE, influenced by several factors. Gandhara and Mathura schools, which is the 1st to 3rd century. Gandhara, modern-day Pakistan, Afghanistan. Under Greco-Roman and Persian influence, the Buddha was depicted as a human figure with Hellenistic features, wavy hair, draped robes, and a serene expression, hardly Asian. This style reflected the Greek artistic tradition, the Gandhara Buddha. Mathura, which is in India, the Buddha was shown with Indian features, wearing a monastic robe and often with a halo. These depictions emphasized his spiritual authority and divine nature. Key features: Ushnisha, cranial bump; the Urna, the third eye; the mudras, the hand gestures. Why the change? Cultural exchange. The Silk Road facilitated the blending of Greek, Roman, and Indian artistic styles. Devotional needs. As Buddhism spread, followers wanted tangible images for worship and meditation. There's your thing. Mahayana Buddhism emphasized the Buddha's divine and compassionate aspects, encouraging more human-like representations. So as it spread across Asia in the 4th to the 13th century CE, Buddha became more round and serene, reflecting Confucian and Taoist ideals of harmony. Southeast Asia, Thailand, Cambodia, Indonesia. Depictions include elaborate headdresses, ornate robes, and mudras, blending Indian and indigenous styles. In Tibet, it's often shown with intense expressions and intricate mandalas. In Japan, the Buddha's image became more abstract and symbolic with influences from Shinto and Zen. The buff Buddha, which is what I called it, um, as a jolly round figure, also called Laughing Buddha or Budai, is a misconception. Budai is a hotel in Japan. The 10th century Chinese monk known for his laughter, kindness, and large belly. He was not the historical Buddha, but became a folk symbol of happiness and abundance. Confusion. Over time, Budai's image merged with the Buddhas in Western pop culture, leading to the fat Buddha stereotype. Depictions of Siddhartha Gautama, the historical Buddha, remain slender and serene in traditional Buddhist art, reflecting his ascetic origins. So there's reclining Buddha, which is in Thailand, obviously. Standing Buddha shows him performing miracles or teaching. And cosmic Buddha, abstract formless representations in esoteric traditions. So it just depends on what your thing is, your
Exactly.
cultural artistic representations. So yeah.
Continues to evolve, I think. And so why is this all important? Why is this all important for like meditation practice? And, one might say, well, this is all superficial. This is external trappings. Where's the real internal? And I would agree with that to a certain degree. It's just that we normally don't interact in our waking life in the external world like that, unless you're a really deep, accomplished practitioner, that you can see through these changing forms in the external. But for a lot of us who are not that accomplished and wise yet, and you can see that these images are images are very powerful, right? They're huge. They evoke emotions, or emotions are with them. We turn on the news, and how we can get triggered out by just seeing certain images. How watching a movie can be completely involved in loss. So images are very striking and powerful. And going to a monastery, but it's not just some book or some idea or a statue or some guy on an island in Denmark practice talking really good stuff, but like, is that real? How is he when the camera goes off and things like this? No, you can go to these places in monasteries today. You can see people, venerables that are wearing these robes, and they're holding each other to account of this very high standards of conduct and practice. And of course, they're not perfect either, but it's a living, breathing tradition today that they're open to, seeking the truth of the way things are and the best way to go about it for their own well-being and that of those around them. And so it's not, yeah, it's a real living tradition, and that visual images are very powerful. But at the end of the day, how is all this affecting the heart and mind, right? This is not an abstract, all mental thing, not all emotional either, but like, where is the balance of heart and mind? What is the benefit, and what are the drawbacks of all this, and how I'm seeing it, viewing it, and responding to it? Where's the balance? Yeah.
So M. Reed says, you asked the question, Wendy, what does one do in a not so nice environment, etc.? I answered, move, walk away. So that's where that
Oh,
walk,
yes, got it.
move.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's right. So we've still got another 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I guess images of, anything can be good or bad. And often I don't know that we know what is good or bad. And I don't know. Do we have to be perfect?
No such thing.
So I guess in terms of worship, respect, inspiration, if someone's just going through the motions, how bad is it? Does it mean that, in 10 years down the track, when it suddenly goes, oh, actually now some terrible calamity happens, and they go, that's what that means, and they take it to heart? So is that good enough?
It's a really good point, Wendy, and I think that's for each individual kind of to know for themselves and figure out for themselves. So I wouldn't read, if it's okay, some of this passage from Ajahn Suchito, and I think this is really the heart of what kind of puja is. So it's a ritual that brightens the heart. Do you think it would make sense to read that?
Oh,
Yeah.
Excuse me, how rude am I? I'm
I know
yawning. I'm
it's
so
okay. Maybe
sorry.
I'll just read a couple of things. And so this kind of is the whole point behind this for those who look at this and say, maybe this is pointless or what's the point of this? So in Buddhism and other religions, and this is from Ajahn Suchito, in Buddhism and other religions, access to and dwelling in the heart tone of bright Kama is associated by devotion and recollection. In Buddhism, it's called puja, an act of raising up and honoring that which is worthy of our respect. The very fact that there are human models and actions that one can feel deep respect for is in itself a blessing to take note of. Honoring opens and uplifts the heart. With puja, we attend to skillful felt meaning, linger there, and allow the effects to nourish the chitta, which is the heart mind. From this basis, it's likely that inclinations or even specific ideas in line with bright Kama will arise. Either that or the mind easily settles into a state that supports meditation. This is how and why one should linger in any bright Kama. So, in the act of honoring the Buddha, one first opens the heart in respect and brings to mind the meaning of an awakened one, someone with deep clarity, a speaker of truths that permeate and bring healing to the human condition. One accomplished in understanding and action, a sage whose teachings can still be tested and put into action. If one has a Buddha image, it's something that should be held with respect. One cleans it, illuminates it with light, and offers flowers and incense to it. We place it on an altar and bow to it and chant recollections and teachings. This is not a mindless activity. We use ritual means and resound words and phrases because this full engagement embodies and strengthens the quality of respect in a way that thinking can't. With the openness of heart that these attitudes bring, any aspect of the teaching that's brought to mind goes deeper. The act of offering that begins a puja is a case in point. Offering flowers symbolizes bringing forth virtue, offering light is about bringing forth clarity, and incense does the same for meditative concentration. In this way, puja introduces the heart to important Dhamma themes. So, and then one more, I'll just read another one paragraph. Oh, puja is especially helpful when people perform it as a group. Then we are participating in the Dhamma as both the expression and the way of awakening, as well as in the collective commitment to and engagement with that Dhamma. This collective engagement ritualizes the Sangha, that is, the assembly of disciples. Chanting in a group has a harmonizing, settling effect. Sonorous and unhurried, it steadies bodily and mental energies and supports an atmosphere of harmony with fellow practitioners. Tuning in and participating brings us out of ourselves and into deep resonance with heart impressions of the sacred. We can be touched by a sense of timeless stability, purpose, and beauty. If these intentions, felt senses, and recollections are established regularly, we know where to find good heart, how to attend to it, and how to allow ourselves to be uplifted. Such Kama feels bright. And by Kama here, it means action. So yeah, it's this kind of that's the kind of sentiment that's that I when I'm not mindful of that, it's easy to fall away and fall into worship. But that's the whole point of kind of puja, having a Buddha image and going through different kind of rituals and practices and chanting and things like that. So yeah, it's easily confused as otherwise, especially I think in the West when we have this, when I have this um, um, other notion of what this is, where you go to church, you're just repeating and believing without, really verifying. And not that there's anything wrong. Actually, it's commendable to some degree because other having no ethics or having kind of just falling into heedlessness and doing things mindlessly, that is a better alternative, especially to start with, than the alternative I find. Perhaps, yeah. Oh, Wendy, I can't. So I'm not hearing you, Wendy.
That's all
Can
right. That's okay. My
there we
mistake.
go.
I turned
It's
it on
okay.
to mute.
Thank you.
Okay. Emreed says, thank you for this chat. It was very insightful. I also look into the etymology of words. Thank you both for this chat. Nice to be here listening in. So always great to
Thank
have
you.
Emreed
I
here. She's here
appreciate
every
that.
time.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I was thinking about the word worship and puja and the sort of ritual process. And I'm wondering if what you're describing is the empty worship. Like to me,
Yes.
you worship is worship, it's just I worship whatever. And And I think what I'm hearing is, if it's empty, and if, like, the thing that bothers me is more is not so much whether you're mindful in the moment, but that you are a Sunday Christian, for lack of a better word. And I think that makes it harmful. So even if you fall for, you're not perfect, there's something about being, say for instance, in a meditation place and doing one thing, and then you're different the rest of the week, or when you're outside there. And I think that's really, really, and then you're self-righteous about how good am I because I go to the church, the synagogue, the mosque, the temple. But yeah, and I think it's that causes the problems. That's me anyway.
That's so well put. I mean, I really couldn't put it more clearly and concisely than that, Wendy. And that's what it's about. And this is where, and even that's not perfect, too, right? So if we do find ourselves in that situation, okay, now what do I do about that? How can then I be more authentic and rectify, or how do I address that if I find myself in that position where I'm actually being, self-righteous and maybe fake about it, or, just being a Sunday Christian, and then I'm considering changing that? How do I do that? And how do I not beat myself up over that and get out of that and be more authentic, and be more real and helpful as well? So yeah, so it's a possibility to do that. Or when I find myself falling into that, how do I best address that without either beating myself up or on the other end, not taking it seriously enough, like, oh, no big deal, or oh, I got to get out of that. On one hand, I shouldn't do that. On one hand, on the other hand, oh, who cares? I can just do that. I fall into that. No big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got 5 minutes
Mhm.
left, a bit less because we wind up.
Inspiration too. I want to hear about the inspiration thing you mentioned at the beginning. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Mm.
So I have this community not-for-profit grassroots thing for more active and public transport in my town. And I've done, and I kind of am doing okay. I'm doing quite well given I started with nothing and I've done kind of okay. But I was doing a course on communication the other day, and it just helped me reframe how to talk about it with other people with more confidence. And there's something about, now that this is something I talk to people all the time, and now that I know kind of how to frame things, what to look for, and how not to frame things, and how to move away from contentious, from ways of describing it that are going to only end up down a negative spiral, so to speak, then it's been really helpful, because that's, having felt sort of not very good at it, and having this course and a bit of training, and I've gone, I feel so much more confident. And now I'm going, I feel really more inspired to go out and do more stuff. So I don't know if that's a good way of thinking about the word inspired, but what I was thinking of is, in terms of the Dhamma, that we might not understand. We sort of think we know, understand. We go, what am I doing? What am I doing? And then we actually, somebody tells us this is a way of approaching it. And then we go, now I have some confidence about how to approach it. And now I can actually apply that really easily. So I've just been thinking about that and how helpful it is. Yeah, you go.
No, that's great, and that's where I wanted to go into this, because this way you illustrate here, the inspiration, it plays hand in hand with this faith, or we can call it trust and confidence, like you're saying, right? And we can see living examples of this, and then that it can provide what you're talking about. So yeah, it can provide confidence. It can, at least consider, oh wow, I really admire this in this person or this teaching. And then, oh wow, what would it be like if I could be, like that, or I could adopt the same qualities, or I embodied the same type of qualities, how beneficial that would be for myself and others, and how helpful that would be. And so that brings about this kind of inspired faith and in trust and confidence. We can kind of like borrow it, or yeah, have support in a way. I don't know exactly how to put it, but be inspired by that brightness and what those qualities we see, and know that it's possible for us too to train to be like that, and to have the same qualities that we're observing and those we respect and admire, and be inspired. Like, okay, what do I need to do? I'm inspired now. What do I need to do to get there, to be like that? For my own self, authentically. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Hmm.
So what it really speaks to is that we learn vicariously. Like, it's such a huge thing. Speaking of vicariously, look at that. Oh my goodness, time's up. We have to turn into a pumpkin.
I will vicariously end this with you. Yeah.
Have fun, everyone.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks
Bye.
again. Hopefully this was helpful.